this story has to do with with a background. Sorry, my tummy is hungry. A history of native colored culture, and probably, since we are in America and there is a lot of white background because of the Puritans and the Mayflower, I will be bringing up some explanation, somewhat storyline about native and colored forms of not necessarily granted treaties in honor. And so mainly the use of treaties based on births, because there is a lot here in the United States of America of mutual marriages it is a culture inclusive background, because we do live in 2025, the year 2025, and there is not many white nowadays that don't have some form of carried over genetics that are of more indigenous cultures. It brings in different aspects of these colored genetics, including yellow, and so there is not that many pure white genetics. So we have a history here in the United States of America, and it is a little sensitive of a topic, because much of those marriages were trust and faith, and much of that means that it was not a treaty based on one group of people setting new rules to overtake the other group of people. And we can't go ahead blaming the indigenous tribes that lacked much weapons compared to what was brought over during the settlement times. And the industrial history of Europe had taken off. And so there aren't a trail of tears as a recorded history for white Puritans that came over here to the United States of America. If me calling it the United States of America offends you, I am talking in a modern term. Before, you could call it the new land. And so, there must have been a lot of progress made in all-inclusive immigrant steps, and there must have been enough of those treaties to say that we do have a good culture and genetic and custom shared history, at least at some point in North America. The bad thing here is where the negative feelings come in for many, is that when you take, let's be aware and intelligent and open-minded and highly perspective when I bring this up. But when you bring a pure colored baby, anyone from Black Indigenous, Native Indigenous, Asian Indigenous, when you bring in a colored baby with a genetic pool which has much to say about the history of having different colored people living good lives. Well, there is a lot of acceptance to accept a marriage between a colored baby, an indigenous colored baby, and find acceptance to the birth of that baby from a colored indigenous group to a white group. And I say that because that indigenous baby, or at least the heavier genetics of that colored baby that is being honored because it has strong genetics just as much as the white genetics. And so when this baby is born, you are introducing light, new changes that are added onto this baby, and notably, it is a baby with slight changes, new changes, gentle changes to the way that they look. This baby represents a big, important treaty between an indigenous group and a white group. The feelings that are heavier is knowing that the treaty was made based on loving and respecting this child, this newborn, and when you place that level of love and care to a newborn baby of mixed genetics, it means that you are opening up your group to a peaceful, harmonious, new life, to the customs and traditions that are now being shared between one group and another. And that beginning is important. It's just as important as when it comes down to more difficult times between one group and another. And who does not honor the mutual agreement because greed becomes a habit, then the angry part here is that you are introducing new genetics into a baby and using its genetics and their in that example to custom life pulling from two very strong traditional groups. And because this baby is born in a unique circumstance and is of naive thinking, because this baby is new, unique, and different, you are using a new circumstantial life, and that includes how they look, because how they look represents who they belong to. And in that circumstance, it is of two families on the opposite sides of two forms of perspective. And it's almost like the most diplomatic form of baby stealing, because you have a baby and you have a treaty, and you are using the sense of belonging between the baby and one of the families, most likely the indigenous colored family, and using beloved love, care, relationship between that indigenous group and the baby to bring about new options and new added things to the treaty that is added on to most likely the white group. Because genetics still mean a lot. And you're using this kid, this baby, to say, even at its most gentle form, the baby is still one of us. A black baby does not stop being black. It has fairer skin. But the baby is still genetically stronger in black genes. A black baby is not going to be born instantly looking like a white baby. And we all have the possibility to be born with pigment alteration problems. Including full diagnosis of albino. So my thoughts were mainly in that category of taking over genetics and the strength of a indigenous group or groups. Those treaties were there to hold traditions and customs down the line in a mutual, respectful manner, because both believed and recognized that someone's mind is capable of perceiving both cultures. And if that holds true, because both fight for or go back to those statements in that treaty, or else that treaty would have never happened, then it means that that is left to how much was used to change minds based on what that baby looks like. It's 2025 and we still hold beauty pageants. And popularity beauty contests outside of beauty pageants. I mean, that fact alone affects someone's percentage of being hired at a job based on genetic features and clothing style. That is too many years of shame to a multi-set of babies with different genetics and their culture and customs and traditions being taken away because the winners had more destructive weapons. And remember, there was a treaty that was signed in mutual respect. One with a lot of guns, one with more natural weapons, and a lot of white people in this United States of America who killed and abused any person who was born with indigenous features. And today's modern or the same old terms of acceptance should not be based on what you can do to someone because of their looks. I am talking about many forms of exploitation. That many people use for business, indoctrination, and this can be done to someone or someone choosing to do it to themselves. Both maybe with not the highest IQ, right? If there is modern time with a higher intellect, and that is options, that is optional, there is smart IQ higher than being someone who is stuck in making ignorant decisions, who continue to hurt other people. And sadly, in this modern time, it is a mixed genetic war. Anyone with any form of genetic pool that they have, that they know of, in terms of color and culture or heritage, tend to exploit one and another. Low IQ thinking. We have plenty of resources. To learn a lot more than any other country. If Americans like to state that there are countries out there with very little and are barbarians. And then the diplomacy seems to fail a lot of the time with foreign affairs that America, the United States of America, have treaties with, because those countries are intellectually capable with resources. It's 2025. And it is always a good year to start doing things right. This is my disappointment and anger, but we have plenty to hold ideals, which is very hopeful and positive. I gotta go, but thank you.